I never used to be able to draw when I travelled, but now I do it pretty often. So I thought I would share with you the how, why, and what of your travelling sketchbook. So later in the video, I'll get into some practical tips about the size of sketchbook I use, how I decide which materials I'm going to pack, and how I choose what I'm going to draw. But first off, I wanted to talk a little generally about why it's a good thing to keep a travel sketchbook and how I kind of got into the hang of it. The absolute best thing about keeping a travel sketchbook is that it teaches you to look and see. You really, if you're thinking about what you want to save and what you want to record, you really start to look around you and try to notice all the small details that might make a feature in your drawings. This little adventure that you can see going on in the background here is at a place called Borkum, which is a few hours north of where I live. And we didn't see heaps of interesting or new stuff on this trip, but we did find a few things, and I was always in that same mind frame of just looking around to really see where I was and see what the environment had to offer. And this isn't limited just to when you travel to a new place as well. I think this is one of the most important things about being a creative or being an artist, is that you're always really trying to observe the world and connect with it. And I mentioned at the start that I used to have a lot of trouble drawing whenever I traveled. I found it really hard to carve out time or to sort of gather my thoughts, I guess. Since having kids, whenever we go away, I've been really conscious of trying to find a little bit of time that I can be on my own and draw. Usually that means first thing in the morning. That's been the most consistently workable solution for me. So I definitely recommend that if you're a morning person, or I guess the inverse of that, if you're a night person, try and stay up later than everybody else so you can have some quiet time. But it's so worth it. I know the thing that I found most when I was traveling, especially overseas, was just the overwhelm and the tiredness of trying to pack so much stuff into each day that you often can't find that extra hour. You just fall asleep. But you can. It's a great way to collect those memories, sort through them all, and get them down. Which kind of leads me on to my next point, which is choosing what to draw. When I mentioned before about keeping a travel sketchbook being a way of seeing the world and connecting with it, that's part of the process of choosing what you're going to draw in your sketchbook. It's just keeping an eye out for those things that strike you as unusual or beautiful or new. Or maybe not necessarily new. Sometimes it's just anything that might make a good drawing. My go-tos are always little objects, small details, but also landscapes and buildings. So when I say small details, I guess that's like flowers and shells, maybe the food that you eat, or little animals that you encounter. And context is more like the things that are landscapes, building, weather, environment, and just the overall vibe of the place, I guess. I've been visiting a lot of natural places lately, so there aren't really any kind of physical souvenirs that you would be like sticking in your journal. But that's another way you could combine your travel sketchbooking, is it can kind of become like a travel scrapbook. Glue all your bits and pieces in, make it a bit of a combination of the two little books. For my practical tips, things that I like to use, I've really found that using a smaller sketchbook seems to work really well for me. I generally use an A5 sketchbook, which is already pretty small, but I've gone to an even smaller one. I think it's an A6, and I really like it. Especially, as I mentioned before, I really find it hard to find time to draw when I'm traveling. If you've got an A6 sketchbook, it's really easy and satisfying to fill a little bit of space. I'd also recommend, if you're like me and you have a limited attention span, that drawing like small, loose, simple drawings is a lot easier and a lot more accessible than trying to draw stuff that's really detailed or finished. I had a lot of fun drawing the pictures in this video, and they were quite a bit scratchier, looser, more brightly coloured than what I would usually do. And it was a super satisfying way to do a bit of holiday drawing. As for materials, I always find that I'm packing in a frantic rush, so I don't really have a method for making sure that I've packed the right or most useful materials. But I do always try to get a few of my favourite pens, the ones that I know I can reliably use and happily use without getting too frustrated by. Favourite pencil, favourite pens, a few of my favourite colours, and I try and get a range of colours. I noted in one of my previous videos that I went out west and the wildflowers were going crazy and they were all purple, and I had not packed any purple. That said, who's to know what colour is going to be the main champion of your palette? But the other thing that's really good about having limited resources to draw on is a limited palette always goes to the cohesiveness of your picture. So I think it kind of helps you out if you've just picked up a few select colours off your desk and you're restrained by that. The other cool thing about living in this time and age is that we always have our phones with us, so even if you don't have time to sit down and draw things directly from reference or in the moment while you're there, you can grab a snap with your phone and sort of reference it later on when you do get a chance to draw. Like I said, I'm often drawing at 4 o'clock in the morning, so not really face to face with a lot of things at that time of day. But it can be a really cool time to just reflect upon what you've seen over the last day or so and record them all in your little book. Anyway, I guess those are my most useful thoughts about taking your sketchbook on the road with you. Hopefully it's time for us to get back out there again soon and do some more scribbling. Thanks for being here.